I pass to Wendy. Now, Wendy probably doesn't need introduction because I would imagine that most people here know Wendy. But if not, I can tell you that there's very few people in this country and in general who have such a broad understanding of anything to do with indoor air buildings system legislator as Wendy does. So this is, so Wendy now is really the brain behind this activity. And I was extremely pleased that Wendy accepted this enthusiasm. Thank you.
Okay, just before we get to our invited speakers, I want to provide just a little bit of a context that will underpin sort of the rest of the day regarding state of indoor air. So it starts back at the formation of the United Nations Environment Programme, so UNEP, in 1972. And it was established to encourage global collaboration in addressing environmental issues. And since that time, the UNEP has been involved in a lot of things environmentally. I've just picked out a few key things that relate to how UNEP has been involved in air quality related things, such as recognising globally that air pollution travels across boundaries. It isn't defined by the political boundaries of countries. About air quality relating to ozone, relating to refrigerants, the establishment of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, the Kyoto Protocol, etc., persistent organic pollutants, etc. The UNEP was the ones who established the format for a State of Environment report. And the purpose of State of Environment reports was to encourage countries to have a systematic method or process of quantifying environmental issues, not just talking about the issues, but how do we quantify what they're about. So Australia produced its first State of the Environment report in 1995, and it is repeated or updated roughly every 5 years. In 1998, Australia introduced its ambient air quality national environment performance measures. So it's setting some of the limits for some of the well-known or pollutants of concern at that time. Following on from that general concept, CSIRO and the Bureau of Meteorology produced Australia's first State of Climate report in 2010, and these are updated roughly every 2 years. It follows a similar format to the State of Environment reports, trying to quantify what the specific things are. The latest Australian State of Environment report was in 2021, so that's the most current one, and the latest State of Climate report was released about a month ago. The majority of Australian states also produce State of Environment reports regularly, roughly every 2 to 5 years, with the exception of Western Australia and Tasmania that produce them in an ad hoc manner, not periodic manner, and the Northern Territory has never done a State of Environment report. So that's just to give a bit of background. So looking at all those reports, and I have read nearly all of those reports, both state and federal reports, there's some knowledge gaps that relate to our topic of interest. First of all, when air is part of any of those reports, they're generally only speaking about ambient air quality. They reference indoor air sometimes, but there is no quantification of indoor air quality in any State of Environment reports. Secondly, health and wellness were not included in any of the State Environment reports until 2021, so relatively recently. But in those reports, though, they're highlighting that climate change is a key challenge to our health and well-being for two main reasons. First is the compounding effects that climate change will have on the pollutants, And secondly, because of the intensity and frequency of extreme weather events also has an impact on the pollutants. But for me, perhaps the biggest, or at least equal big, if not biggest, challenge is that it's not well coordinated, the environmental management with other policy areas. So there's limited links between multiple portfolios and policy areas, such as environment, climate change, emergency response, resilience, health, etc. So to give a few examples, Australia has a National Action Plan for the Health of Children and Young People. We also have a National Asthma Strategy, but neither of those two policy documents refer to indoor air quality and addressing indoor air quality as part of the solution or the strategy for addressing those health things. Buildings are not considered part of the energy infrastructure in Australia, despite buildings having to meet carbon reduction and energy efficiency targets, and buildings account for a large proportion of our stationary energy use and greenhouse gas emissions, and addressing indoor air quality in buildings is likely to impact on both as well as on our health, but they're not considered part of the whole setting. Indoor air quality is not, at least until recently, included in education policy and in building practices of education institutions, despite indoor air quality impacting on chronic and episodic diseases, as well as absenteeism, concentration, cognitive processing, mood and behaviour. And in addition to that, a common response in Australia for disasters such as floods, bushfires, cyclones, even heat waves, is to advise people to go to a shelter, to an area which might be a community facility, a community hall, it might be a shopping centre, it might be any number of buildings, but those buildings might not be designed to handle the number of people that go to them during an emergency situation. And the indoor air quality, as well as the lighting, the energy, the sewage system, etc., might not be suitable for those types of emergency responses. So they're just a few examples of how the environmental issues and the indoor air quality issues are not necessarily considered as links between multiple portfolios. I think everyone in this room and online would agree with the Australian Institute of Health and Wellbeing that the built environment is a key determinant of health, and therefore we need to have a coordinated and collaborative approach to how we can make sure that the built environment is part of all of those solutions. Because buildings are where we live, we work and we socialise. They're spaces that provide shelter, and they're spaces that provide us with opportunities to do a whole range of activities. So the purpose of the proposed State of Indoor Air report is to fill those knowledge gaps, to provide the evidence, the quantification of what it is of the air quality in buildings. So the two main objectives are to collate and review all the existing evidence of the measured concentration of pollutants in Australian buildings, and then to evaluate drivers and impacts. And we'll be in the session just before lunch, we'll be going through the process, our thought processes at this time on that report and how you can contribute to that. There were 5 key questions that were put on the agenda for today, and in essence those questions cover the links between indoor air quality, health and greenhouse gas emissions, the links between indoor air quality, thermal comfort and energy, the links between indoor air quality and climate change, the links between indoor air quality and the potential for dynamic optimisation of ventilation in public buildings, and then the need for collaboration and transformation from all sectors in order to improve indoor air quality.